Here is something wild. You've already used AI today. If your phone unlocked with your face, it was AI. Ask Siri for weather, AI. Or Netflix suggested a show that you now regret watching. Yep, that was AI again. And none of that felt like Skynet. It just felt normal. Hi, I'm Ronnie, and welcome to Predictably Clueless. Today, break down all the AI terminology that you've heard. AI, machine learning, neural networks, deep learning, generative AI. What are all of these terminologies and how do they connect? And how did we get from a little bit talking about AI as thing of future to now just omnipresent everywhere in every conversation? AI, or artificial intelligence, is a big umbrella. Basically, it's like getting computers to do smarter things that kind of feel humanish, but they're really not. Think about spam filters or facial recognition or even Google Maps saying turn left now. It feels like it knows you and understands your life, but that's not really what is happening here. Now, inside that AI umbrella, we have something called machine learning. And that, in my opinion, is the real MVP. At some point, maybe a decade ago, we realized that instead of giving computers a list of things to do, we can give it a bunch of examples and let it figure out a pattern, mostly mathematical. So, for example, let's go back to when I was talking about spam filters. What we could do is we showed it 1,000 emails and we marked it, okay, these are spam, these are not spam. It learned to filter spam by recognizing the patterns that were there. These days, you can feed it photographs of cats and dogs, and eventually it'll stop calling every animal a cat because it's learned to recognize some patterns that make up a dog. Tail wagging? I don't know. But yeah, when you're learning by example, that's more machine learning. You're not giving specific instructions at this point. It's like we taught ourselves how to wear shoes or avoid wearing socks when you're wearing sandals, which doesn't really happen where I live. People still like to wear socks and sandals, but some things you just learn. Let's now talk about deep learning, and this is a type of machine learning. However, there are layers. So machine learning was you showed examples and the AI learned to do something. Now we are adding more context to it, more layers. Basically, it's trying to mimic what our brain does, where we can think in multiple layers and not just one specific logic. We can run multiple logics. Think of trying to understand different English accents. You first need to learn a language, but then to understand accents, you need to be familiar with different variations that can be used for the same words or similar or same sentences. When you're teaching a voice assistant to understand different accents, that is more of a deep learning. Or AI can now detect tumors in medical scans. Again, tumors are not the same type, same size everywhere. Now you can train it to recognize different kinds of patterns in tumors, and it can detect tumor. Or less grim one would be self-driving cars spotting stop signs. Again, there are multiple kinds of stop signs. So it's not just recognizing a pattern, it's also able to adjust some things on the fly because of the second or multiple layers of thinking that it is doing in the background. Next, we have neural networks, and these are just the building blocks behind deep learning. Imagine a bunch of digital neurons. Again, neurons are cells in your brain. They are stacked in layers, and you have some input. There is some hidden layers or interconnected where the processing is happening, and then you get some kind of output. So they pass the information that you saw or heard in like a brainy game of telephone. It's recognizing patterns, making decisions. Sometimes you're also hallucinating some weird stuff. And yeah, definitely you can think of image generators as big hallucinators because they can come up with crazy stuff. 32-pack abs. That's basically neural networks, and it's just the step before we reach our generative AI. This is where now the things get spicy. With generative AI, you don't just analyze stuff. Now we can make stuff, things like text, code, images, and music, for example, things that are very complicated. Recent example, I heard a song, the new Linkin Park song, but they had added Chester singing some of the bits, and it's unreal, I know, but it also felt like it fit. So I don't know. I have so many mixed feelings with this technology. Every technology has a bit of mixed feelings for someone, but this is more controversial than most. Some don't like the new Linkin Park singer. Some think it was abomination to mix Chester's voice in their new song Emptiness Machine. I like it. I like the version they made. It just felt like, yes, if Chester was here and there was this new female lead, that would have been so amazing to see in Linkin Park. But I'm getting on a tangent here. So what does generative AI do? It's creating stuff. Think of you're using ChatGPT to write, for example, this script, and it wants me to say, I like it very much because it's an awesome tool. Midjourney getting sued by law firms. No, sorry. Midjourney drawing cyberpunk corgi. Again, you wouldn't find those things in real life. If you give it to a human, they will be able to sort of, if they're a good artist, process it and create something. But these AI tools are able to do that because they have learned from multiple examples, and they can come up with new thing that could be completely different from anything that existed before. So yeah, it's just like a very caffeinated artist with unlimited time and questionable taste. So here is the TLDR of everything we just talked about. We'll try to fit everything in nice little hierarchy of how it all works. First, you have AI, and that is kind of your umbrella term. And under that, you will have all of these different terminologies that we are now hearing. First up, of course, is machine learning, and that was the most basic form of AI back in the day, where you taught it with examples, it learned to recognize patterns, and then it could do some things based on that recognition, that knowledge. Then came deep learning, and that's just machine learning with multiple layers, kind of like lasagna, or just think about AI trying to recognize different accents. Then you have neural networks, and this is basically how deep learning works. You're sectioning off different parts to do different things, just like in our brain. You have different pathways for recognizing speech, sound, taste, different parts to process logic. Once all of these layers are set, the next logical step, of course, is becoming human, or in this case, generating AI slop. Generative AI now able to recognize all the words, patterns that is being said, and based on that, based on what information it has saved, it's able to generate and output something resembling a human. Okay, so that's the general buzzwords that you hear about AI. If there is something that you didn't find here that you were looking to see, please just leave about those in comments below, and I will try to cover it in the next part. And yeah, thank you, and see you next time.